just no correct play because you don't know how many layers deep your opponent is going to think because you're like, okay, yeah, people will just get lazy and default to middle, but maybe your opponent's not playing on autopilot, so they're going to go right. And then it's like, okay, well, now they know I'm going to go right, so they're going back to middle. There is no correct play in a situation like that. There is only a winning play. And I feel like Marvel Snap has a high amount of situations like that, and I think it's one of the cooler aspects of the game from a spectator perspective, but we're actually already way underway here in game number 1 as Thor is matched by Green Goblin.
A friend of mine, now that you said about the correct and the right play, said to me, you know what? People tend to play their cards on the right location because this is where your thumb is. Because he was playing from a phone. And he told me, you know what? This is where people tend to play most of their cards. And like I tried it 3 times in a row and it happened. I was sharing my screen to him. And then he was like, see, I told you. This is what happens. This is how it goes.
So we've got Wave down. Magneto is available, but priority is not with Spyro, so they're not going to be able, because I would imagine at this point your opponent you have a good read that your opponent wants to Galactus the Green Goblin location, especially given that you've got Thor there. If you're going to Mjolnir to power it up, that's one less spot that you have. But without having priority, how much does it really matter? So throwing Hulk into Vibranium Mine seems really weird to me.
Yeah, and also let's remember that Grand Central is there, so you immediately lock the lane. So you can, yeah. The
There is
Demon.
Galactus.
Kneel before
And that
Galactus.
is, I don't think the Hulk counts towards null, but it should count towards death. I've never really paid attention to that because I don't know what my opponent's unrevealed card was, so I didn't know if my null was coming in. Here comes Dracula versus Carnage.
That's the greatest card you can get as the Galactus player.
Oh, and
because
this is
Carnage
so
cleans everything.
Yeah, we get the retreat later. Best case scenario, you throw down Magneto and then you discard Infinite to Dracula. That might be a winning line, but only at 1 power and your opponent's still having Null and Death available. It's a little bit too much of a risk, and we are just going to see the retreat now, and that's going to be, looks like 2 cubes lost. Oh no, yeah. Actually, did we come in super late? Because Yipper's already down a couple cubes.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're late, but we're going to figure out what turn is pretty soon. The thing here with Spyro is that you did the correct play. You said if my opponent is not really thinking about it and they play Galactus mid, I can go for it. They haven't snapped, so I can try to take a, low risk, high reward in case it happens. It didn't happen, so Spyro just retreats for 1. And sometimes you just have to be like that in battle mode, because if you can suddenly take an outstanding win when your opponent gets all the good cards, why not go for it?
That said, we've got a really, really strong opening hand for Spyro under normal circumstances. The Wasp to pair with the Lockjaw, Jubilee to come down the turn after, or Thor and get that Mjolnir into the deck. But location's pretty neutral so far. Avengers Compound does have some big implications if we end up having to Electro into the Galactus. Galactus on 5 instead of 4. But Wolverine there does kind of eliminate that possibility.
Yeah, and also we get another location that, it gets locked. So this is probably bad for the Galactus player, and Thor goes there immediately, which is pretty decent, because you can just power up later on. And also there is Vision for Spyro, which is a super solid card right now, and you can also move that one as well.
Yeah, I would say that with Vision, with Vision in the deck especially, Spyro is a lot less susceptible to bad locations than a Galactus player would be.
Yeah, exactly. And you're also flexible. You can also put more stuff into Lockjaw, because one of the best stuff that can happen to you is you play your Wasp into Lockjaw, and then you draw a Vision. And you can move that over, and you can play the next turn something else. And it also leaves you extra room for a Jubilee in case you get that one. So I really
think
like
this is going to be, if it's Nimrod from Yipper, then Galactus probably wins Xandar on 6. But it's Destroyer.
It is.
All right, so Spyro's still in this one.
What is your way of thinking here? Like how... I mean, you go high into a lane, but it can't get matched by Hulk, and then there's Wasp, of course, so... I don't really know what you're supposed to be doing here. Like, what's your way around this?
I'm trying to think of the cards left in the deck for Spyro and I'm pretty sure they're all large enough to beat whatever is coming down at Xandar, specifically because Yipper is not running the Taskmaster. But you're definitely not winning Avengers Compound. Kiln is already sacrificed. I do not think Yipper can possibly win both locations here.
Yeah, and death is not like reduced so much that you can just play 2 cards. Of course, you have the 1 extra energy from Electro that you just destroyed. But this is like a super weird situation, and it's gonna be played out. Death into the right and Yondu left. And it's not enough.
Yeah, America Shava is going to win that one by 1, and you might even end up losing Xandar. Infinite is still in the deck.
Infinite got destroyed from Yondu right now.
There we go.
But it doesn't matter. Because there's Hulk to seal the deal in Avengers Compound.
Yeah, and that's 4 cubes lost for Yipper. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, okay, let's think about it a little bit.
Sure.
Probably now, if you're Yipper, you just have to try to be calm and collected and try to figure out how you're winning the games. And probably not throw more 4 cubes into this one. I mean, unless they know that they can't win this matchup, but you can just try to play it, see where this goes. Because as a person, sometimes you might be playing a matchup that is literally unwinnable, and you just want to forfeit it because you can't just do it. Chances are super low, but this is a tournament, so you might as well just give it a shot.
Yeah, I liked the idea of an earlier retreat there out of Yipper, but okay, we get Electro, so we're setting up for potentially the first Dr. Octopus that we get to see on camera. And with a Tillin coming in, you could just yank your opponent's entire hand into Grand Central.
Yeah, exactly. That's a pretty good option. And you lock everything there. There is Lockjaw on Attilan as well, so your opponents can't play their big cards over there. And your Null also goes like over the top with all of the cards that you're going to destroy if you have Galactus, of course.
And seeing Infinite comes down, like, it's a little awkward because, yeah, we're going to see just everything pumped into Attilan, anticipating the Galactus. But it looks like, what would you play middle here? Is that Destroyer? It is Destroyer.
Weird situation. Like, Yipper maybe never has Galactus. Oh, terrible.
Yeah, you're not coming back from this one, Yipper. You don't have, especially with Wave coming out. Now your Electro advantage is gone. Null is only like as big as a death. Yeah, it's gonna be a retreat out of Yipper.
Yeah, makes sense. And also Hulk came out of the Lockjaw, a 20 power beast. Round 5. There is still a way. Like, there is still a way. 3 HP is definitely doable. Spyro, of course, can try to go for snaps to actually force the Yipper to go out if they don't have decent cards. But like, Spyro also has some pretty good cards and some pretty good locations as well. Because you can Magneto stuff on Fisk Tower, Kamartaz for your Thor, and like your Jubilee. Also, yeah, good for Yipper.
Ooh, that Electro onto Oscorp is really huge, especially given that I think Camartage is comparable for both players. Obviously, like, Thor can get really big. The Mjolnir can make Thor very big, getting multiples of those in the deck. Like, Jubilee probably not going to come out at that location just because you've got a couple of Mjolnirs as well as Wasp in the deck. But if you can actually get a Destroyer onto Camartage with Nimrod, we're actually not going to see it. We just see a retreat out of Spyro, it seems. It's going to be 2 cubes swinging back towards Yipper. But still a pretty surmountable lead here for Spyro.
Yeah, that Electro into Oscorp Tower on turn 3 is like the best thing that can happen to you as a Galactus player, because you get rid of Electro and your opponent gets it. It's not like it just
Oh, Quantum Tunnel. Can we just Galactus on 1? One time Galactus on 1.
Oh, Destroyer.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
Oh yeah, I got a 115 on my first tower, on my first turn. I'm sorry. Could have done better, but it's still okay. And a lot of cards. A lot of cards.
When throwing Thor down before Wasp, so might just pull Mjolnir out of Quantum Tunnel.
Well,
meanwhile, 27 power isn't even necessarily a winning amount of power in this matchup.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can get Hulk, you can get Magneto, and suddenly you're winning. But now all of the good cards are in Spyro's hand, so maybe that retreat is is legit, but also taking your time here is something super important. Like you can just stay here as
Another
Spyro
retreat.
and take your time to think about it. Because you haven't clicked end turn yet, so you have all the time in the world to actually figure out what you want to do.
Well, that was a quick one. Another quick retreat out of Spyro. It seems like every time Yipper has been snapping, Spyro's been retreating. And again! This is not how I expected the gap to be closed. Just consistent early snaps out of Yipper, kind of going, hey, you know, if I snap, do you just auto-concede? And Spyro saying, yeah, I do actually. You can't go much further than that.
The locations have been pretty favorable for Yipper the last couple of rounds, so they have to actually snap in order to get back to the game. Because if you just let your opponent do whatever they want, like draw their card, see how it goes, and on turn 6 decide if they want to stay or not, it's better to just go for it, just snap and let them know, like, you know, how are you gonna get into Altar of Death? I have Wolverine, Galactus, a lot of stuff.
I just feel like we blinked and all of a sudden it's a tie game, whereas Spyro previously had 9 cubes.
People don't remember how Wave works anymore. Like, none of you can play cards now.
Yeah.
I mean, it has happened to me, but like...
And another snap out of Yipper. I've actually done it myself where, like, I will wave, like, either, you know, we get, like, +1 mana or Elysium comes out, and I'm like, I actually just really don't want anyone playing cards next turn, so here's a turn 2 wave. But that's... Well, I mean, Yipper snapped after the wave came down, resolved, saw that they couldn't play any cards this turn.
So what is your play? Like, next turn you just Galactus left? Is this your way to go? Because it's a weird situation. Like, I don't really know what's going on.
When we're looking at like 5 mana plays that can come down this turn, or no, not even 5 mana plays. It's got to be 4 mana plays.
This is a lot of cards.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, Snowguard's gonna turn off the kiln? Activate the kiln? I can't tell.
I mean,
but that Triskelion, I guess, doing work.
A lot of work. I was expecting maybe a Carnage into right, so you can just destroy all these cards. You can proc Nimrod twice, but also Carnage left. Not Carnage. Sorry, I'm sorry. Galactus left is pretty good now because you get Nimrod and you just get plenty of stuff going on.
And there was an option for Spyro to play around this with the Magneto, pulling the wave over to that location if they saw it coming, but maybe they were just happy to let it resolve.
I mean, you can try to do that, but if your opponent doesn't play Galactus, it's gonna be a weird situation later on. But now, probably Spyro has this in the bag. Like, what does your opponent have that they can win this one?
I don't think Null is that big. Like, you could probably Death Null here, but I don't think it's enough power to beat Hulk Magneto.
It's Doc Ock and Death, and it's still not enough, and Spyro is gonna take this round 2 victory.
Yep, just letting the Galactus go off and saying, you know, it's fine, I've got Hulk here already, I know what you're looking to do, I've counted up the Null, I didn't, but I'm sure Spyro did, and just saying, yeah, it's not big enough. Even with Null Death, I'm still winning this location because I'm just slamming down so much, especially given that Elysium was the location that survived. It's still a 5 mana Magneto, so Hulk is getting that extra buff at the end of that round. Yeah,
that's also something that I didn't keep in mind, that you have the 1 extra energy that you float, so your Hulk becomes even bigger. So it's like a 14 power last turn play. And if you're going for a 22 play, you're like, yeah, maybe I can do it, but forget the Hulk. Maybe Hulks are not enough.
Yeah, I'm still curious about that turn 2 wave. Where, like, and then snapping immediately after that seemed a little weird to me, but obviously it didn't work out. Now, it's, you know, sometimes you just don't count on your opponent slamming down Hulk followed by Magneto and things of that nature. But that is gonna do it for round number 2 as far as I am aware. No, it is not. We are getting right back into it. Never mind, participants without video are currently hidden. Would you like to show them? Yes, please. Show me that gameplay. Never mind. Okay, never mind. We're just back to the casting desk.
Okay, you know what? We saw again a high evolutionary deck popping off, doing magic, and even when Galactus got on a roll, like, probably that big bad wasn't big and bad enough. Probably was big enough, but not okay, maybe it was bad enough, but not big enough. Because if it wasn't as bad, maybe it would have been bigger, and maybe it would have been better. But if you're better and bigger, doesn't that make you worse bad? I don't know if you get my train of thought.
You completely lost me, Commantus. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna let it go. You know.
All right. So I don't think we're getting into anyone else at that point. So just getting confirmation real quick if we're going to throw you to a break screen or if we're going to sit up here and podcast for a little bit, as we know that you Marvel Snap community love a good podcast.
I'm gonna be honest. A lot of people love podcasts, but I feel like we have another round actually. But we just need to podcast for a little bit, as I've been informed from production. But as a person, I don't like podcasts. I know why people like it, but I'm more of a visual person. Like I want to be seeing stuff, and like I know most of the times you're hearing a podcast, you're doing something else, which is some nice company. I don't know. Like, are you doing a podcast recently? Generally, Boulevard.
No. I've never done a podcast. I've appeared on podcasts, but I never had one. But it doesn't matter because we're back into the action. King of Canada versus Raikenga. I don't know. I'm going to assume that they are not at 10 cubes apiece, especially given that we are in round 5.
Yeah, okay. I was so confused. Like, we got a game right now, and both of them are like 10 HP each. As we can see, Medusa is a card now. This is also a 2/5, but it has to be played in middle, so it's like a different Star-Lord. You know, keep that into consideration. And it's also a card that it's actually available to plenty of people out there, so you might as well, slam it into your deck.
And it's, I'm not sure that I necessarily expected to see Darkhawk anymore. I think it's one of the only decks that's still running Iron Lad, which was one of the last cards that I can think of outside of High Evolutionary that came out, and just everywhere you looked on ladder there was Iron Lads. But Howard the Duck has, I don't know about you, since his release I have seen a single Howard the Duck.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I haven't seen a single Howard the Duck, but I've seen some in tournaments. I've seen some Hela players throw out Howard the Duck and Crystal, and they were like, okay, my whole game, if I don't draw Hela, can go down to a 50-50. And
that's
I was impressed.
One way to do it.
Yeah, because you would see your next card with Howard the Duck. You also had Iron Lad in case you wanted to go for that, and you were playing MODOK, Invisible Woman, and Hela, and you were doing some crazy magic around your cards that you're gonna draw, and also Jubilee as well. So you could mill your deck kind of if you would Jubilee into something else, and Crystal and all of that. So it was impressive, but that's just it. It was the whole package that was impressive, not just a deck.
So here on the last turn, Sarah's available. It's a little bit of a weird situation where we haven't played into Lekagiola at all, but Mr. Fantastic is currently winning that location for the opponent. We've got to throw a card there while also keeping up on Mojo World. Honestly, I think it would be worth to actually Sentry then Cosmo so that you get the Void into the Mojo World, so you just have an extra unit there. Looks like we're going to play it a little differently. I mean, Rockslide's not winning middle. This was a bit of a risky line here on the King of Canada side, and it just does not pay off at all.
Yeah, it was pretty weird. I was also with let's play Sentry, see what happens kind of situation. But actually, what ends up happening is that King of Canada is gonna go down. Like, even if you play Sentry first, it's still not enough to win Mojo World. So you had to take a pretty weird guess to just play Sentry mid and win with that. But here we are, round number 6. King of Canada has 2 HP versus 5. It's still doable. Howard the Duck.
This is as many as I've ever seen in my entire life.
There we go. We got the duck. Now you get information with Iron Lad, and you go for that combo. Where you go.
I want to see I've never seen him tap, because the one time someone played it against me was on turn 5. So I want to see if it actually does turn to the side like you kind of expect a tap to be, or do you just click on him? Is that what they mean by tap?
I'm not gonna ruin it for you. I'm gonna let you say it. Expect it. Wait for it.
Did they not do it?
They didn't. Okay, maybe King of Canada is kind of anxious, maybe being on stream. and playing a tournament, because that's pretty solid for someone playing a tournament.
Or is it? I don't know where, because I've never played Howard. I don't know where on the screen it shows you what your top card is, and maybe it's just cut off by our layout.
No.
Oh my goodness! Hobgoblin into Cosmo off X Mansion.
What?
That's an X Mansion tip.
Okay, so you see Howard the Duck. You just tap on him. The next card is Serra. So
there we go. So it's up to
It's just
production to
pierced.
tap. Oh no, I guess it would be on because we don't actually have a spectate client, but yeah, point stands.
It's King of Canada's tap. They just click into the deck, and then the deck tells you your future. And
I don't think King of Canada can snap. They've only got 2 cubes and we're already playing for 2. I don't think you're allowed to snap at that point, right? Okay, yeah. Lambie's catching up. Just didn't fully take in all of the information. It happens.
And we see Jessica Jones, we see Mr. Fantastic, we see Medusa. This looks like a deck that you would run like pretty early in your career in Marvel Snap.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to actually see those cards being played in a tournament. It's fun and enjoyable, at least for me.
Looking at, I mean, this is, if you Sarah here, you can Iron Man Mystique next round, which is probably one of the most powerful things that you can do.
Is it though? Because it is generally, but you don't have a lot of power. Like playing Iron Man mid is like you go to 8, you play a 4 power card, which is
Yeah, you're only going to 16, and with again, that Mr. Fantastic middle is just continuing to be a pain in the side of King of Canada, not quite, like just being so centralized on these 2 locations, and instead we're just going to see Iron Man middle to go to 8 power. And Gamora's going to... Whoa.
That's a lot of power, but that is also a great top deck, Darkhawk. But you have to keep in mind, you cannot Mystic right, so if you want to go for it, you can play Darkhawk right and Mystic somewhere else, or Darkhawk mid and Mystic left, so you have to keep in mind that you have your Cosmo there that won you like the X-Mansion diff. So please keep it in mind.
That said, you have these 2 powerful cards. I believe Darkhawk's going to be at 10 power because we have seen the Rockslide resolve, but like slamming 10 power into Bifrost to try and win that location feels really bad, especially knowing that, not knowing what this list is out of Raigenga. Obviously, King of Canada has a better idea than we do. You kind of think about like turn 6, here comes America Chavez. If you America Chavez Bifrost, it just beats Darkhawk.
Yeah, but you're winning the other 2 lanes, but you can also move something. Oh, so Nightcrawler moves.
Oh, White Tiger. Gonna hit Bifrost, just be enough.
Well, of course, Mystique is there to actually combo with Iron Man, and King of Canada gets these 2 cubes. Pretty solid plays. And actually figuring out your win condition is the most important thing you can do in Marvel Snap, and King of Canada did it this round.
All right, we're down to the wire here. Raigeka still has 2 lives, having those 3 cubes available. Vormir, with this hand, not a great location for King of Canada.
I feel like it's not a great card regardless, because most of the times with this kind of decks, you just don't want to kill any of your cards. You want everything to be in a single location. You want your Zabu early, you want your Rockslides early, your Sentry, everything you want it on board. And actually killing one of your cards is a bad thing for you as a Serra player. And especially this deck.
Yeah, I would say it's beneficial to Raigenka in this scenario, just because we know that they're playing like Nightcrawler and Mr. Fantastic, so they might just never have to play a card at Vormir. And unless this Howard the Duck goes to Vormir, which is counterintuitive to like already having the Iron Lad in your hand, but Project Pegasus is going to make this a little bit different, really accelerate the game, and really smooth out this top-heavy hand that King of Canada was sort of forced to.
Yeah, that was a blessing from the RNG gods.
Oof.
And this is also pretty good for Raikenga, because you have your White Tiger to your right, you spawn your Tiger to the left, and you also got your Medusa mid with your Hawkeye, because Hawkeye is like a card that I've barely ever seen. and you've got all of your cards out there,
It's
and
like-
you're good to go.
Looks like Cosmo is the top card of the deck. Probably not your ideal Iron Lad target, but looks like they want to go for it anyway.
They can combo it with Sentry, maybe, if they want to go for it, because your Sentry, of course, won't spawn a thing. And where are you gonna play it? Sentry can't be played right, so maybe that's what they're going for.
Yeah, it's just a little awkward given that your opponent is about to get the raft off on turn 5, gonna have something to, or turn 4 rather. This is actually a very early raft pop off. Meanwhile, there's still, like, are you sacking your Cosmo to Vormir? Because otherwise you are just not playing that location. This is the first turn that you actually, no, you still actually don't get to take advantage of the Sarah buff. So while it came down on 2, you still haven't been able to play 2 cards in a turn yet.
And the problem here, other than the fact that your Sarah has been kind of useless up until this point, is that your opponent locked themselves into the raft, but not actually, because Nightcrawler can just move out, and you can also add more power later on if you need to. Howard is gonna see the next card is Luke Cage, but like you're in such difficult situation. Like you need to do some magic in order for this to work.
If we're not sacking Cosmo to Vormir, we just can't play Vormir. And with Nightcrawler being able to move out of the raft, I'm not necessarily super confident that King of Canada has as much control of the raft as they would like. But you do still have Iron Man.
This is kind of a weird order. You want to be playing the card that you want to copy, probably with Mystique last, in case the next turn you... But actually, you're not
Well,
gonna draw Mystique, right? You know you...
Yeah, not only that, but both locations are Cosmoed now, so you've actually completely taken Mystique off the table.
Yeah, that's correct. Because you can't Mystique in Vormir as well, because Mystique is gonna go down. Here comes a Wolfsbane, though. And another Cosmo. Final turn. Let's see how this one goes. You can't play both of your big cards. This is weird. This is weird.
Iron Man center raft is going to be 12 versus 18, just like, or 12 versus 20 rather. So it's a lot of cards that right get. Oh, just not moving the Nightcrawler at all. We might actually get to see a comeback from King of Canada.
Odin and Leader.
All right.
That was insane because you get Leader, and Leader has to copy Luke Cage. But you can't copy Luke Cage, right? And of course, your Iron Man isn't being copied because it's not the highest, the card with the highest power. So actually, you figure out a way to win this, and that's insane because you didn't have enough power to move like Nightcrawler. Because even if you add your Odin there, it's still not enough.
Yeah, it's just a tie on the raft, and then you're not winning that Iron Man draw. But we do still have one game to go. This is the down to the wire. You know, 2 cubes on the line, both players at 2 or 1, and we finally got a bit of a smoother opener for King of Canada.
That Howard the Duck probably is gonna do magic. Probably not. Pretty solid to have this little guy around. See your next card. Get some information. Yell that you didn't top deck the card that you needed to, even though you knew it. No, it's part of the game. Everything is part of the game.
Looks like we've got Iron Lad on the top of the deck. Sentinel pickup was nice for King of Canada. Yeah, it's better in this situation than Luke Cage is, right? Your opponent isn't actually playing any minus abilities, but it looks like we want to free up a little bit of hand space, and we're still going for Luke Cage anyway.
Well, why I would like, I don't know, explain this play is that you maybe expect a bad location that decreases your power. Like, I don't remember the names. Like
Oh, there's -1, -2, -3. Like,
Yeah,
they are out there.
Maybe you were expecting one of these and you go for Luke Cage, but also not keeping your hand at a high number of cards might be a thing to go for as well.
I'm trying to imagine. So imagine like one of your friends is coming to you and they're like, oh yeah, you know, like I just played this game. I slammed down Luke, like I sacked 1 power on a location on the off chance that the last one was something to reduce power. I think I'd look at them and be like, what are you talking about?
It's the overthinker, you know, it's the overthinker inside of you telling you, play Luke Cage, it's one less power, but there's a 0.2% chance that location is gonna be it. So it's gonna be worth it if your guess is there.
Iron Lad's going to copy Sarah, which is going to let us play yet another Sarah next turn, and we might actually just get a pretty big pop-off with, sort of old Zabu numbers of Darkhawk and Rockslide down to 2 here on turn 6. But Howard the Duck goes down from Electra on the Orcus Forge, and that pain in the side of King of Canada, the Mr. Fantastic, has returned.
Well, Mr. Fantastic is back, but you have Zabu, you have Sarah, like your cards.
Is it just Sarah Zabu? You just vomit your entire hand into play next. I mean, you might as well Sarah Zabu the Orcus Forge as well, because I think you're going to be able to just play out all those Sentinels.
And other than that, you just don't want to play all your cards, right? Because they might go to Baxter Building. And
yeah,
your
it would be
might play a big card there.
Okay, as long as you play something at the Orcus Forge, I think that at least one Sentinel is something you're very interested in getting your hands on.
This is actually problematic because you need to play everything in Orcus Forge. Because if your opponent plays Gamora right and Gamora moves mid, you suddenly have a huge power Gamora that goes for free into Baxter Building, bypassing Cosmo. So you have to keep that one in mind as well. Here comes plenty of cards for Ikenga.
This is also, a little risky because if Iron Lad and Sarah go into the Baxter Building, that's not an ideal situation, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. But you can also try to compete for the other lanes as well, because you have a lot of power anyway. So +3, that your opponent winning Baxter Building is not the end of the day. But you top deck Iron Man. That's a 3-power Iron Man.
I mean, Iron Man, Darkhawk, Rockslide, Sentinel is the line here for King of Canada. The question now just remains, where do you want to be throwing all of them? And Iron Man actually only represents about as much power as Darkhawk does here, with Darkhawk being 10 and Iron Man being 11 on the center.
It's gonna be 10 after Rockslide, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. So yeah, probably this makes sense. They're pretty close when it comes to power. And the last card is Odin, as it seems. So Electra is gonna activate again. Ironheart is going to activate again. But it's definitely not enough to win everything out here, because you have your Iron Man into Baxter Building, and of course it's going to be enough to lock you the mid and right lane as well. But Darkhawk is decent. Oh, maybe it's enough actually. I didn't really do the math to win Orcus Forge as well. And it is.
Nope, it's even a draw. Oh yeah, no it is. I thought you meant on the side of right Genka, but doesn't really matter. None of these players were able to retreat or snap as we were down to the final number of cubes, and that is going to be King of Canada picking up the win very narrowly here, and I believe that was like round 8, round 9, definitely down to the wire. One of the longest games that we've seen thus far, and that hopefully will take us until the end of this round, as that one really a bit of a slugfest there, Camantis.
I don't really know what a slugfest is. We don't have that one here in Greece. But I'm gonna say the following, okay? Because it seems like these two players are kind of new to the scene, Raikenga and King of Canada as well. Both of them have definitely a lot of room to improve, to figure out what is going on and like move forward into Marvel Snap tournaments. But what I have to say is that me as a person, I'm really happy seeing new players trying everything they know up until now into a more competitive aspect and just checking it out, because this is something that I love for people who just play casually the game or they don't have that much experience and they're like, okay, I'm gonna play the tournament, see how it goes. I hope you people keep on playing in our tournaments and generally other tournaments. The more the merrier, the better. So please keep it up, and in case you get any hard criticism from me or any fellow casters, keep in mind that we can't always know what's going on, and sometimes it might sound harsher than it is. So thank you for participating and keep it up.
Especially when it comes to me. I have been known to dog on some players, but not today. I'm feeling nice today. But we are going to throw it to a break here as we move into round number 3. Thank you all for sticking around. We will be right back with more Snap Battle Arena Season 13 Spider-Verse Tournament. Hello, everybody. My name is Boulevard. Still joining me is Camantis. Now, round 1 and round 2 are in the books. Both of those rounds, we saw High Evolutionary Lockjaw performing. And now, for round number 3, Camantis, do you want to take a guess as to what deck we're going to be highlighting?
I don't know. I'm not gonna guess. Even though my name in Greek means the one who guesses the future, I'm not gonna take that guess, unfortunately. But maybe High Evolutionary. I don't know. Like that thing is broken.
It's a solid guess. We don't actually have confirmation just yet, but we are very close to getting into the gameplay. And even if we don't get a deck list beforehand, I'm sure. Oh, no, we do get a deck list beforehand. And okay, it's actually Sarah. It's actually Sarah Darkhawk again. So we don't know what the opponent's playing, though. Could still be High Evolutionary Lockjaw.